Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we are going to be talking about the top 5 best lines for newbies in World of Tanks Splits to grind. So this is basically just a combination of what are the easiest lines to grind, not necessarily the easiest, but the best combination of easy lines to grind and a very good tier 10 to go with that line. So the first tank on our list is going to be the M6Yo. Now this is a tier 10 American heavy tank, and this tank is a autoloader, has two different guns that you can put on it. It has a 2-shot gun, which is what I'm running in this video right here, and it has a 3-shot gun as well. Now the 2-shot gun is more fun to play because it has 450 alpha and a 1.7 second interclip reload, which means that you can absolutely decimate people for 900 damage in basically an instant. Now the 3-shot gun is statistically better, and it is a better gun. It has 3 shells at 310 alpha, and it is a better gun, like I said, but this one's more fun to play. Now for the line grinding up, now for the armor on this tank, it's got some pretty decent armor. You really just have to watch out for those hatches, and that's about it. The mobility is pretty good for a heavy tank as well. Now concerning the line, the tier 7, the tier 7 is a 310 alpha 1-shot gun, which has okay armor and okay mobility, nothing too special. And the tier 8 is a 3-shot autoloader with 310 alpha, decent-ish armor, and decent-ish mobility. Nothing super special either. Now the tier 9 is a little more interesting. It's like the tier 10 in that it has 2 different gun options, the 3-shot and the 2-shot. But on that one, the 3-shot is much better because the 2-shot has an incredibly long reload for the clip, and it's just horrible DPM and really not a good gun to run on the tank. So I highly recommend running the 3-shot on that tank. Alright, so that is the number 5, and now we're going to be moving on to the number 4 spot on the list. Alright, for the number 4 spot on the list, we have the AMX-50B. This is a tier 10 French heavy tank, and it as well a autoloader. This tank has a 3-shot gun with 400 alpha, giving it a burst potential of 1200 damage. It has very poor armor on the turret, so you do need to watch out for that. And its side armor is as well very poor and can be HE'd easily, but it does have very good mobility. Now, this tank is a pretty strong tier 10. It's one of the better ones out there. This tank will be reworked in update 9.1 though, so it's going to have very different. So that's just a heads up that this tank will be different in 9.1. I'm not sure to what degree it will be like OP, or how good the tier 10 will be then. But for now, in update 8.10 and 8.9, this is how this list is. So yeah, this tank has a for the line leading up to this tank, for the tier 7, it is just a pretty average meh tank. It doesn't have very good armor, but has a decent gun, decent DPM on the gun. The tier 8 is a little bit different, has pretty decent turret armor, very weak hull armor though, and it as well has a clipper. That tank, the first tank, does not have a clipper. That tank has 2 options. The stock one is a 225 4-shot alpha gun, 4-shot gun, and the second option, which is the main gun on the tank, is a 3-shot 310 alpha gun, I believe. Yes, 310 alpha, and that tank has decent mobility as well. Now the tier 9, the AMX-50 120, is a little more interesting. It has the same gun as the tier 10, so 400 damage, 3 shots, 1200 burst potential, and as well very good pin. But that tank has absolutely 0 armor as well. So yeah, that tank's a little pretty interesting because it has the same gun as the tier 10, so it has a very strong gun, but the tank itself, like the hull, is not very strong, so it's a weird combination. But yeah, that is the AMX-50B. The line is pretty solid, and the tier 10 is pretty solid as well, so definitely earns a a number 4 spot on this list. Now moving on to the number 3 spot. Alright, so for the number 3 spot, we're going to be having the VK72. Now this tank is a little different from the other ones on the list because this is a little bit of a harder tank to play compared to the other ones, but it is still a very fun and very strong tank. Now this tank is, let me turn down the volume some. Now this tank is a German super heavy, and the line leading up to this tank is okay, it's pretty decent. You have at tier 8, I believe it's the Tiger 2, or I might be completely wrong on that. I honestly don't remember the tier 8 on this line. I should have looked at that before I started the video. But the tier 9 on this line is the 42.01B, I believe, is the tank. It has a 460 alpha gun, one shot, and a rear-mounted turret as well. It has okay armor. That tank is decent. It's nothing incredible. I did pretty decent when I played it on the grind, so I don't think most people will have too much trouble with it if you play it correctly, and that goes for the VK72 as well. Now, this tank is pretty reliable frontally for armor. If you just angle your front pretty much straight on, you really just need to wiggle your turret a little, and you'll bounce a lot of shells coming at you. And as well, it has a 640 alpha, pretty reliable gun, so you're not going to be having too much trouble with the gun. And you're not going to have horrible trouble with the armor profile if you just angle it very lightly. You know, you really don't want to over-angle this tank, and you're going to be getting a decent amount of bounces, just like I'm having in this game right here. So yeah, this tank is a little bit different because it's a little bit harder to play compared to the other ones, but I still definitely think it's a great tank with a pretty decent line grinding up to it. I mean, most of the German tanks are pretty good for the lower tiers, so yeah, you're not going to be having too much trouble with any of that, and yeah, it's not a bad tank at all. So I definitely think this was deserving the number 3 spot. We are now going to be moving on to the number 2 spot. Alright, so for the number 2 spot, we have the 60 TP. Now, the 60 TP is just straight up an amazing tank. This is one of my favorite tanks at tier 10 currently, and it is absolutely amazing. So this tank has a 600 alpha gun, 14.1 second reload, and as well has tungsten shells. This thing has decent mobility for a heavy tank, and it has pretty strong armor as well. You have a very strong turret on this tank, really just one hatch weakness, which is very hard to hit for most normal players out there, and as well a very strong upper plate that gets a lot of bounces unless you're angled unless the enemy is above you, and as well a pretty troll lower plate. So yeah, this tank has a pretty strong armor profile, a very strong gun as well. Now, the line leading up to this at tier 8, you have a pretty good tank. The tier 8 on this has a 400, I believe, in 20 alpha gun, and as well has tungsten, of course. That's just with all the tanks in this line. 420 alpha gun, pretty strong armor as well, and decent mobility. The tank is pretty good. A lot of people really enjoy that tank. And the tier 9, the 50 TP, is a decent tank, 460 alpha gun, decent mobility on that tank as well. And yeah, that's not a bad tank to grind up either. And of course, it's all worth it for the 60 TP. Like I said, it is an absolutely amazing tank and pretty much a must-have in the game currently. And especially if you want to be a better player and down the line be a comp player, you have to have the 60 TP currently in this meta. So if you're looking to do that, you definitely need the 60 TP as well. And yeah, the 60 TP is a lot of fun to play as well. So that's the number 2 spot. Now we're going to be moving on to the number 1 spot. Alright, so for the number 1 spot, we have the E100. Now, the E100 is a very classic tier 10 super heavy, and it is a pretty noob-friendly tank just because of its pretty simple armor profile, pretty simple gun, and just all-around easy line to grind up. Now, grinding up to this tank, at tier 8, you have the Tiger 2, and at tier 7, you have the Tiger 1, which is an extremely strong tank. But at tier 8, you have the Tiger 2, which is a pretty good tank, and you have at tier 9 the E75, which is one of the strongest tier 9s if you play it correctly. That's a really good tank. I really enjoyed grinding up that tank. And then, of course, the E100 is a very strong tier 10 heavy itself. Very nice gun, 640 alpha, 14.5 second reload, pretty good pin, decent accuracy on the tank. The mobility on the tank is actually not horrible, I would say, for how good the armor profile is, which is pretty strong. Your turret does have a little bit of weakness just because with a lot of premium shells from most high pin guns, it can be pinned. But other than that, really it's just your lower plate. And if you angled this tank correctly, you can get a lot of bounces. Just side scraping this tank, wiggled your turret when you're facing an enemy, or move it off to the side a little. Of course, not too much, and you will be getting lots of bounces. So yeah, the E100 is a very fun tank to play as well, and probably one of the most popular tier 10 heavy tanks to grind for, I would say, especially for newer players. So it's probably not even too much of a surprise that this tank was at the number 1 spot. So yeah, that's my list for the top 5 tanks that every noob should grind for. Let me know what you thought about the list and what you would have picked for your top 5 tanks, or if you agreed with it, whatever. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it and it helped you out if you're a new player to the game. See you guys all in the next one. Bye.